In this video, I'm going to show you how to make your images go from this to this. Cleaner. I'm going to show you how to make your images cleaner. In this one, I'm going to give you a basic rundown of the gear that I use as a beginner in landscape photography. So this is the first bit of gear that I'm going to talk about. This is the 10 to 18mm lens by Canon. Now this is a wide angle lens, and I'd probably say that for landscape photography a wide angle lens is essential, just so then you can get them big sweeping views and you can get low and get the foreground and accentuate the foreground and make it lead you into the image. But this is probably my most used lens at the minute. This never really comes off my camera. But with it being super wide, there are some drawbacks. You do get the slightest bit of distortion at each corner of the image, sort of towards the edges where it's stretching the final bits out. But it's very, very hard to notice unless you're looking for it. I've posted a lot of my images full wide and I've not cropped it, and I've not had any comments on the distortion of the lens. Final brief overview of this lens. Positive, it's super wide, sharp, it's super sharp. The focusing, it's really fast autofocus, and it's silent as well. So if you're videoing, the autofocus is silent, so there's no negatives. The only negative I can think of this is the distortion in each corner, but it's not even noticeable, so I'm only including this to add a negative in there. I won't even worry about it. Absolutely perfect lens. Definitely get this lens. The next piece of gear that I wanted to talk about was actually a zoom lens. This is, again, another cheap lens. This is the 75 to 300mm lens. Now I probably put this in like a budget lens, a budget zoom lens bracket, because it is very budget, but for the price it is incredible. I've got a few faults with it, but it's always in my camera bag. I've not taken it out since I've got this lens. But for landscape photography, I'd say a zoom is also essential because it allows you to crop in and get the details of things. Again, I'll put some images on screen I've shot with this. I mean, everyone can shoot the big vast landscapes and the big beautiful scenes if the scenes are there and they're well trained in cameras. But no one's got your eye, if that makes sense. So having a zoom lens to zoom in and crop into them details really does help. So the positives of this lens is, I think, it's the perfect zoom range. Zoomed out at 75mm is zoomed in a fair bit anyway. So zoomed out, you can use it to get zoom shots, and then that 300mm, it just brings everything closer and compresses everything. So for me, this is the perfect zoom range. It's sturdy, to say it's cheap, it's well built, it feels sturdy. Another positive is that it's cheap. When is that not a positive? If you just get a cheap lens, play about with it, realise that you would benefit from a zoom lens, and then you could upgrade to something like the 70 to 200mm. The only drawback again with this is there's quite a bit of chromatic aberration. Chromatic aberration is where around details and sharp bits you will get green and purple hazing, like just around the sharp lines. But again, that you can fix that in Lightroom. There is literally a setting where you can fix that in one click. So again, nothing really to worry about. Now, one bit of gear that I use that actually comes with me on every single shoot I go on is this. This is a remote shutter. What it does is it allows you to plug this into the camera, and then this button here essentially becomes your shutter button. You can press to shoot with this one, or you can hold and slide up, and that gives you your bulb mode. This is essential because if you're shooting a long exposure, any sort of touching on that camera, I mean, you can set a timer so the camera shuts off after you've touched it, but just to get that extra stabilisation, get one of these. It just takes away any actual physical contact with the camera, and it just gives you that peace of mind that your image is going to be fully stable and no shake on it whatsoever. Remote shutter, highly recommend. Quite an obvious bit of gear, I'd say, is actually a tripod. A tripod essentially is something to prop your camera onto where it's sturdy, it's not going to move, there's not going to be any handheld shake. The last bit of gear that I want to talk about, and it is only because I am excited to use them and haven't had a chance yet, is these filters. Something just these. Extra light that's being blocked out is essential, or else your image is just going to be blown out. But that's not the only thing to do with them. You can take glare off water or any kind of reflections. You can even change the whole colour of your image depending what filter you use. If you like a video just looking at these filters, then I'd happily do that. But I thought I'd best include it in this. I've not used these just yet, but if you want to get into landscape photography, you're probably best off buying some filters. Now these are just some cheap ones from Amazon. Definitely have a look at them. But to really sort of find out what gear you actually need, you need to just get out there and shoot. Get yourself out there, get in the landscapes and get actually just shooting some images, and then you'll see what you need, how you can get better, what it will do to make you better. See what you can get with the gear that you've already got, and then come back to this video, see what it is that you need that will make your images just that tiny bit better. I hope this helps. Thank you for watching. Just to add on to that, one thing I forgot to mention before was your kit lens. Your kit lens is a perfect lens to get started with. Most kit lenses, if not every kit lens I'm pretty sure, is 18 to 55. Definitely get started using your kit lens, because that's what I got started using with. And if you can use that, you should be fine with any other lens.